Welcome back to Thinking Out Loud. I'm Sheldon McLeod. Welcome back to the Saltwire Network. I was reflecting on the fact that 1 year ago today, Nova Scotians elected a progressive conservative government. Tim Houston became the premier. That was a job he had his eye on for quite a few years before he actually realized his dreams. And, 55% voter turnout, not the greatest, not the worst. But again, it speaks to the fact that a summer election, we could talk about that. But I wanted to talk about something else. The provincial government today sent out news release, a statement on first year in government from Premier Tim Houston. It's very clear who this is from, marking 1 year since voters in Nova Scotia elected a new government. And Tim Houston in this release says, "Let me begin by saying it's the honor of a lifetime to serve as Premier of Nova Scotia. And without doubt, I believe that he truly feels that way." And then he says, although it's only been 1 year, the government hit the ground running. And then there are a list of accomplishments. He says, has so far delivered over 80 real solutions. I'm not trying to make this a partisan fight, but Nova Scotia Liberal Party under Zach Churchill is already putting together its own report card and assessment. I'll leave that up to you to, digest and look at on your own. But I wanted to talk more about what it means 1 year into the mandate and the fact that this is a government that said, we're going to do what we can, or a party that said, we're going to do what we can to fix healthcare. And it might take a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of patience. And it may even take more than one term. Margaret Brigley is with Narrative Research. In fact, she's a CEO and partner, and she's been very much plotting and gauging how premiers and governments perform here in Atlantic Canada. And it's really nice to see you again, Margaret.
Great to see you, Sheldon.
Here it is, 1 year anniversary. I guess there's going to be more information released over the next few days. But I'm curious, when did you start asking folks in Nova Scotia their thoughts on, 1 year in?
Oh, well, every single quarter, we ask Nova Scotians what they think of the government, whichever government is in power. So how satisfied they are with the government. And we went into field just a week ago to ask about 9 days ago, to ask perceptions of the current government here in Nova Scotia. So top of mind. Yeah.
Satisfaction with the government. What did you learn?
Well, you may be surprised to learn this, but satisfaction hasn't changed much quarter over quarter. And there has been a lot that's happened in the last few months, in particular with the provincial government. But satisfaction's really held steady. In fact, 6 in 10, 60% of Nova Scotians say they are satisfied, completely or mostly satisfied. Only 3% say completely, but 57% say they're mostly satisfied. And that puts them in a position that really mirrors where they were, following the election and just 1 quarter ago.
There's often this honeymoon that governments and new premiers can benefit from. Does it look like Tim Houston's honeymoon is still on?
I would say he's not in a bad position, for sure. And I think that keep in mind that the platform that got him elected really was placing priority on healthcare. He has clearly said that he plans to make big changes to healthcare. A lot of those haven't been seen and aren't physically visible to the average consumer or the average resident. I think that's fair to say. But he has made some strong initiatives within the past few months that, depending on where people sit, they could see it as that's what's needed to help get us where we need to be. And I'm thinking of things like putting the Halifax Art Gallery on hold, saying that's not the time, it's not fiscally prudent to do so, or rescinding pay raises for MLAs, another initiative that was taken, or streamlining crown corporations to, as they said, drive the province's economic agenda. All of that, it's not surprising that given the time of fiscal restraint and the tough times that consumers are really going through, that people might think that's not necessarily a bad decision.
When we talk about 1 year of government in the mandate and the opposition says, well, what about inflation? What about wait lists? What about? That all speaks to that there is a process for opposition, and voting intentions is the way that you measure that?
That's right. Yeah. So we ask, if a provincial election were held today in Nova Scotia, what party would you vote for? And again, we see voting intentions of decided voters really mirror what they did just a quarter ago. We've got 44% of decided voters saying that they'd vote for the Progressive Conservative Party, and 26% saying the Liberal Party, 24% saying the NDP. So you can see that the PCs are in a good position. They're not suffering by decisions that have been made.
Right.
Certainly late.
And when it comes to preference for premier, two new opposition leaders since Tim Houston became premier. So what do we know about that?
We have seen no change quarter over quarter there as well. Really 36% versus 34% last quarter say Tim Houston. Preference for leader, we've got 16% saying Zach Churchill and 16% saying Claudia. So again, not a whole lot of change quarter over quarter, which is interesting.
So how do we align that, preference for premier with the overall satisfaction with government? So it seems as that even though Tim Houston and the Houston solutions were put forward as, the reasons to elect a progressive conservative government, that the party has more support. Can you explain a bit about that?
Well, you mean voting intentions?
Yeah, just when we put down, voting intentions, it doesn't show as strong a support for Tim Houston as it does for the overall satisfaction with the job that he's doing. We
don't necessarily see the preference for premier always aligning with political party voting intentions, although it does to some extent. But it's really across all of the parties. Which individual would you prefer to have as the premier or the leader of our government?
Right.
So cross parties almost.
These questions were presented to people all across Nova Scotia. There's no geographical breakdown, though?
I don't have that in front of me. But,
no, I know that's in the works.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We're hot off the press. Literally, we just pulled this out for our chat today, though. But one thing I think is really important, Sheldon, here is the next election isn't until July 2025, right? So at this point, anyone governing, they've got runway. They've got an opportunity to make some hard decisions if they so choose, and some tough decisions. And they also have the ability and the time to put something in place to get them where they want to be eventually. So speaking to whatever agenda they may have in the longer term.
Given the Premier's statement, 1 year in, fairly optimistic about the accomplishments thus far. And as you point out, he still has time to make tough decisions and put that in play. But if you're Premier Tim Houston, you're looking back at your own report card. It looks like the numbers back up the fact that he's been resonating still with voters 1 year later.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that there have been a few things where there have been some balks or some criticisms. I mean, when you see some of the comments made in terms of who was posted or having friends posted, to lead new crown corporations as an example. There are some criticisms, but overall, by and large, the public's behind what the government's doing right now.
Well, we'll look for that full report once it's compiled and published. And CEO and partner of Narrative Research, Margaret Brigley, it's always great to catch up.
Have a good day.
Thank you.